Hello everyone, this is HCSCS Gear, back some more Starcraft 2 Heart of the Swarm action. This time it's going to be between Liquid TLO on the center left side, and up on the center right-ish side, top right-ish side, it is going to be Mouse Mana, who is currently up 1-0 in this series. Remember that it is from IEM, $6,500 for first place, but also keep in mind that IEM tends to go year-round. There's a lot of different events that they do. This is just one of their first ones of 2013, and there will probably be a lot more moving forward. They have some of the biggest prize pools in the business, so winning any IEM is very prestigious. It's always when people like me are casting a game and they're like, well, McLovin Buttface won IEM 3 months ago, and he was able to take that. That's like pretty good. Yeah, so basically it's saying it's a very prestigious tournament to win, and if you guys were watching it, the production value was pretty darn good. They did have some lag issues towards the end, but either way, apparently, according to everyone that was at the event, all the casters, all the personalities, and all the fans, it was one of the best audiences in esports ever. So good job to you guys. Real stand-up crowd over there. So good job. That's all I have to say. I'll admit, I've been to a couple events where the crowd is kind of frumpy, where they're kind of not really that into the game. And it makes all the difference in the world as far as the experience, as far as how good you feel coming out of it, as far as how enjoyable it is to cast for that audience. A lot of it is basically just based all around the fans. I think that's something that a lot of people tend to forget, is that really StarCraft is such a good game because of the fans. I mean, if no one played the game, then Blizzard wouldn't spend the time balancing it. They would just go off and make another World of Warcraft expansion. So yeah, it's really the fans who end up making the game what it is. So I always try to remind people of that, you know, when I was in college, I remember meeting a bunch of StarCraft fans, and of course I was a StarCraft fan because I wasn't even making videos back then. We would all hang out, we would watch tournaments on the big screen projectors in the rooms, and you know, it's just great. It's just awesome to hang out with friends, share something that you all have in common, and whether or not you're a good player or, you know, a bad player, it doesn't actually matter whatsoever, because you all enjoy the best game ever made. So that's all I have to say about that. A big shout out to all the StarCraft fans, as we do have the expansion going to be going down right now for Liquid TLO here, and this time not going as much of a macro opening here. Kind of trying to decide exactly in my head what he could do here, because Protoss can really always do the same exact things on every single map, just because their units are very versatile, and really you kind of, for the most part, of course there's always exceptions to the rules based on the maps, but for the most part, Blink Stalkers are good, Immortals are good. These are all units that you're going to make almost regardless of what your opponent is going, so it's really going to be up to TLO to figure out how he wants to play this map, because as a Protoss player on this map, you can get a relatively easy third. Same goes for Zerg players, so there's a lot of timings for both races here that can end up being very devastating. It does look like TLO going to be going for this third base, is not really money blocked or expansion blocked by this pylon. Will there be a cancel? Yes, he does cancel. That was literally like the last second there. So get 75 minerals on the return on that investment, and TLO going to go ahead and expand right now. Notice how that expansion is a little bit later. We're at about 4.5 minutes when that expansion started to start, where as in the other game it was slightly earlier, so TLO spicing up his build just a tiny bit, and that means we could be seeing something drastically different. We do have the Cybercore going to be going down right now for mana, as would be expected. Should be a second gas, if not, yep, it's already done inside the main base, and just trying to mine off of both of those here. So he's gonna have decent gas income. We'll be able to start the warp gate research right away, and can also start a Stalker, maybe even a Sentry if he decides to, although it might be a good idea to go ahead and tech right on up. Although, in the last game, he played pretty standard 2-base timing and managed to crush TLO with it. So, really at this point in the series, Mana can try and win with something fancy, something fun, or something unorthodox, but if he ends up losing this game, it might be a good idea just to go back to those kind of basics, go back to that 2-base all-in. It's very easy to execute, very easy to understand, and is extremely potent versus Zerg players right now. But again, third base is easy to take for both players. Does mean that both players, there's a lot of timings that they can actually utilize right now. So I'm kind of curious to see exactly which one of those timings is going to be used by each of these players here. Although I want to say TLO just now getting his double gas. So he has a lot of money invested in hatcheries, queens, and drones, which means that he could begin macroing up an army here relatively soon. We've seen a lot of players like Stefano go for like an 11-12 minute roach max, which is pretty absurd. And if it takes your opponent by surprise, it can crush them. But if the Protoss scout it, they have figured out the build orders to just absolutely dominate that. It usually involves lots of Immortals, as who would have thought, right? Versus that many roaches. But yeah, as Zerg, if you play all your cards right, you can get maxed out at about the 12-minute mark. So I'm kind of curious to see, based on the production tab, exactly what TLO is going to go for here. He does have his layer tech on the way. More and more drones being produced right now. Of course, probes being produced for mana as well. Will take him a little bit to get fully saturated. You can see not that many probes here. You want at least 2 full rows of probes on your mineral line, and he is nowhere near that. So he's going to be making those for quite some time. And kind of curious TLO's drone count here. 49 to 42. It is very hard for Protoss to keep up or in the lead on workers at this stage, but lots of Chrono Boost means that you can go toe-to-toe there in the worker count. Twilight Council is going to be on the way. Keep in mind, this Twilight Council is actually very well hidden in that no Overlord is going to dare float through here, whereas the Overlords really could, you know, scout the outer perimeter of the base quite easily. So I love this base layout so far, and also a Templar Archives. This is going to be on a very early stage of the game, and I'm trying to think here. I'm just scratching my head. Is it going to be for Storm, or is it going to be for Archons? Now, normally you would see Archons if you're going this early using the Dark Shrine, just because, number one, you can try and harass with a couple DTs, and if it doesn't work out, well, you still have the DTs, and you can turn them into the Archons. Whereas this one, it costs more gas to get the building, you know, for the High Templars themselves, costs more gas there. So I'm kind of confused as to exactly what this build is from mana. It looks like, though, it is going to be Archons. I mean, I don't see Psystorm on the way, and I already see High Templar warping in. So my guess is going to be very fast Archons here, because Storm not actually that good versus Zerg in the mid game, because Roaches can just eat those Storms. Plus, not only are Roaches going to be just fine versus the Storms, but they can also just dodge them. I mean, Roach, a very quick unit there, and can easily dodge that. So I'm not sure exactly what his plan is here. This has to be for Archons. Maybe he doesn't want to reveal it just yet, but my guess is he is going to try and go for an Archon tech of some sort. And TLO, what are you doing? He's got a lot of Roaches on the way, and I think he's actually going to do it. I think he's going to try and go for the 11, 12-minute max here, although he did get slightly supply blocked, so that's going to set it back just a few seconds. But with Blink on the way, Archons on the way, I seriously have no idea how well Archons are going to do versus this, just because, you know, you may think, well, you know, lots of splash damage, the Archon does extra damage versus Zerg, it can be a beautiful thing, but at the same time, I mean, Roaches have a lot of HP, they don't clump up nearly as big, or nearly as small as a lot of the other Zerg units, so I don't know. I want to say that TLO actually has a build order advantage going into this. His supply is way ahead, but that is to be expected here versus, you know, a Protoss player at this stage. There's actually, it's impossible for Protoss to keep up in that regard. But right now, these units might just run directly inside the main base. The Automaton, man, he is not holding the line, and I think this game might actually just be over. Mana has absolutely nothing here to defend himself. Yes, he's got a couple of units here, but guess what? Lots of Roaches back at home, and this may be one of the shortest games in PvZ that I've seen in quite some time. He is going to go for it. The Roaches, though, just going to be able to run directly into this army. Force field's going to prevent it for a little bit, but guess what? These units directly inside the main base. Cannons are on the way, but hello, running directly on up there, and it does look like this army really struggling. Not enough force fields here to hold this up, and there's going to be the GG almost immediately, as apparently Katy Perry has left the game. So you're hot, then you're cold, you're left, then you're no, you're dead, and that's a shame, is the new lyrics to that song. So really, the 11, 12-minute Roach max ended up working out very, very well for him. And I gotta say, I mean, Immortals can absolutely crush this, and I feel like Mana was going for one of those builds where it's like, you know, if it works, you look like a genius, and if it doesn't work, you look very foolish, which is very, very unfortunate. And unfortunate for him, in this game, he does end up looking foolish, but that's okay with me, because that means it is now a guaranteed best of 3, and what that means is that there is a guaranteed 2 more games, very well could be a 3rd game based on how these players are playing so far. Very back and forth on just, you know, the advantage that one of the players has. Where in the first one, I mean, Mana just completely crushed that game, made it look easy, make it look like he was going to do a 3-0 sweep, but in this game, you know, TLO looks like he's going to do a 3-0 sweep through the rest of the games, just because he's able to get such a good build order advantage. So we're going to find out in game number 3. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.